Welcome to a Satisfactory Update 5 tips video, and on this video we're going to be discussing manifold versus load balancing item distribution. So sit back, relax, and let's jump into it. So in my infinite wisdom, this is actually the second time I am recording this footage because I ended up getting my terminology totally confused with this. I knew what it was called all along, but for some reason I got it in my head that I was calling this a bulkhead distribution, and it is in fact a manifold distribution. So we're going to run through this again and do a better job of explaining these two different organizations. So we have the manifold set up on this side, and we have a load balancing set up on this side. So let's start with the manifold and how the manifold works. So basically, I have a feed coming from this Mark III miner down here that is putting out 480 items per minute on this Mark V conveyor, coming up to this nice little splitter here. And we have 240 items heading off to the load balancer, and we have 240 items heading off to the manifold distribution system. So the way the manifold distribution system works is everything gets fed into the first splitter, and then it is halved. Half of it goes into your first smelter, and then half of it continues on down the manifold. So when it gets down to this one, so we're feeding 240 items in, so that means 120 items is being dumped directly into the smelter, and 120 items is coming into this splitter. It then halves again. 60 items is going into this smelter. 60 items is going down to this splitter. And then it halves again, 30, halves again, 15, so on and so forth, all the way down the line, until this last one's getting just like a little over 3 items per minute getting fed into it. Now, initially, what happens is this is working off of our priority system. This is the first priority smelter, second, third, fourth, all the way down. We have 8 smelters here because it divides up nicely into the 240 items that are coming along here. Once this one is full, once this has all of its materials, well, obviously, this isn't going to need 120 items anymore. It's only going to want the 30 items. So that means going down this conveyor will be 210 items that are then split. And so then this one's taking as much as it can until it's full. And then it heads down this way. But of course, this first smelter and this smelter is still requiring its 30 items per minute because that's what required for making these, in this case, iron ingots. Is each one of these is going to be getting a constant feed of 30 items. So that means that the most we'll get out of this conveyor coming down here is going to be 60 less. So this is 180 items coming down this conveyor that then gets halved, and so on and so forth, until eventually you get down to this point down here where this one is going to be getting just a steady stream of 30 items per minute. So the benefit to the manifold takes up a lot less space. It will eventually be able to do 100% efficiency, getting all of the materials that are fed into it out and into storage. But there is a slight difference in the fact that while this one's filling at max speed, that one down there isn't going to be doing anything. So during the initial startup of the manifold system, it's not as efficient. These end smelters end up constantly waiting for materials because they're waiting for these first few smelters to fill up. So that is basically the idea behind the manifold system. Is it's a priority fill. I'm going to fill the first item, fill the second one, fill the third one, so on and so forth, until eventually all of the items are getting exactly 30 items per minute. And then, of course, it all exports out and into storage or whatever production line you have continuing on beyond that. So that's the explanation behind the manifold. Okay, so now let's talk about load balancing and how this is set up. So this is a load balancing setup over on this side. And so basically the idea behind load balancing is being able to feed an equal amount of product to each of the pieces of machinery, equally distributed across all of the equipment all at once. So how that works is we have 240 items coming down this way. It hits this splitter. We have 120 going that way, 120 going this way. And then it comes down to the next row of splitters. And they split off, so we have 60 going off into there and 60 going off into this one. And then it comes down to the next row of splitters, which is then 30 items and 30 items being fed in. So all of these smelters end up getting an equal feed of materials instantly, from the time you turn the system on till the time it either runs out of materials or you turn it off. So what does that mean output-wise? Output means that you're instantly going to get product out of all of the smelters all at the same time. So you, as the instant you turn it on, it is 100% efficient. It is making the most amount of product it can make from the time you turn it on to the time you turn it off. Where on the load balancer, on the manifold side, it's not capable of making 100% of the products from the minute you turn it on until the system gets completely caught up and all of the smelters end up getting filled up. It's not until that point that you reach 100% efficiency. And it takes a while. It'll take 20 minutes before this entire system gets to a point, or 15 minutes before the entire system gets to a point where it is making 100% efficiency. Where this setup is 100% efficient right away. So say, for instance, where this would come in handy is if you have this all being loaded into a series of different productions that's all the way down the line. So the idea behind having it equally distributed like this is the items can be equally distributed into the next phase of manufacturing, and so on and so forth down the line, so that everything, as soon as you turn it on, it starts outputting product and inputting into the next line, so on and so forth, to instantly be able to get your end game or your end item that you're trying to craft together. For instance, if we were taking this and going to make screws, then we would go from here directly into a distribution for the screw manufacturing. And then, of course, so on and so forth down there. Is if we were making reinforced plate, so on and so forth, we would get to a point where all of the items, as they're going in, they're getting equally distributed out and moving on to the next phase of construction. So this ends up being an instant gain of 100% efficiency. This side, the manifold side, will get to 100% efficiency. It just takes time to get to that point, because each one of the smelters have to fill up. Where these ones here don't have to wait for anything to get filled. They just need the products going into it. And we'll be able to fire this up here pretty quick, and you'll get a good example of just how that looks when these are, when the products start hitting, and when the smelters start kicking in line and things start working for us. So why don't we look at that now? Let's get some products starting to run into these smelters. Okay, to get everything all fired up here, all I need to do is just connect this tiny little piece of conveyor that's here, and then we'll head up to the top of this little makeshift tower that I've got here, and we'll be able to see the products getting run into our manifold system and our load balancer, and we'll be able to see how they fare for equal output. So I'm just going to go into my logistics, grab my Mark V conveyor, click here, boom, that's loaded in. We are flying up top now. And any second, you'll see, okay, we're looking here now, and we can now see, oh, I'm getting caught up on some blocks here. Let us land so you can have a better look. All of the smelters on the load balancer side, all 8 of them fired up right away and are producing ingots all at once. Look at this side over here where the load balancer is. The first 3 are manufacturing. The 4th one just kicked in. 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, they're all waiting. Oh, the 5th just kicked in. Oh, but then it went off. The 4th one just went off. Let's see why that's happening. So let's fly down here just have a quick look. So what's got to happen is this first one needs to hit a full capacity. So this conveyor now only needs 30 items per minute. But now it means it's got to dump into this one. So this one here needs to get to a full capacity before this conveyor slows down to 30 items per minute. So right now it's getting 105 items per minute because we have 210 being fed from this conveyor that's getting split both ways. So you got 105 heading down the line that way and 105 going into here until this gets full. And we're almost at that full point here right now. So then what's going to happen is this is going to drop down to only needing 30 items per minute. So the conveyor will fill up and it'll pause. So then the rest of the materials will continue down the assembly line here. So we're full now. So that means this is 30, this is 30. So there's 60 items per minute out of our 240 that are gone. That means we have 180 items per minute now coming in on this conveyor that's being split. This smelter and this conveyor assembly continuing on is only getting 90 items per minute now until this one gets full. Once this is full, of course, then we've got 90 items per minute that are being consumed off of our line, which leaves us 150 items per minute remaining. So that means that this conveyor, the fastest this little chunk of conveyor can ever get, is 150 items per minute, which then gets halved. So that this one is now going to be taking 75 items per minute. And this section, all the way down, will get a feed of 75 items per minute. And if we look at this now, we're almost to a point where this is full, where we're going to reach that 150 items on this conveyor, getting split equally to 75 items. So that's why these ones right now are constantly starving and waiting for product, is because we're not at 100%. Now, what does this look like on the output? This side here, we are 240 going in. We got 120 going that way and that way. We have 60 getting split. We have 30 getting split. These ones, very rarely are they actually going to fill up overly full. They'll probably stay pretty consistent around this mark here that we're seeing right now of 8 or 9 items in there. But every single one of these are feeding the materials through. They're getting the materials and it's exporting. So let's look what's happened on the export end while we've been discussing this, since we've turned it on here just a few minutes ago. On the load balancing side, we have 8 stacks working on the 9th stack of completed ingots. So what does that mean over here? We only have 5 completed stacks working on the 6th. That is how much difference we're seeing initially when this system turns on. Now, I keep stressing initially, because eventually this side will get to 100% efficiency. But this is 100% efficient right away. So what are our bonuses, or what are our pros and cons of each? The pros of the load balancing side is your machinery, when you turn it on, is always running at its most efficient it can. There's no waiting for products. It's doing what it can as long as you have equal distribution of the required products for the equipment that you've got in there. The con for this is it takes up a lot more real estate to be able to have this load balancing system put in place here. Now, I could probably condense this a little bit. There might be some room, using some elevators and stuff to try to, condense this up so that it doesn't take up quite as much room. But I mean, you got to admit, this is about as compact, I think, as you're going to get with it. There'll be a little bit that we could, kind of maneuver, but generally, you're going to take up more space having a load balancing side. So let's look at this side. Pros for this is it's extremely compact. It doesn't take near as much, and we can actually compact this one step further on here. Is we could say, for instance, have the input line coming in on this side, and then we would have a smelter on each side of these splitters, and so that it's only 4 wide, so it gets even more compact. But then your last 2 or 3 or 4 are all, they're still going to be waiting initially for the first ones to fill up. But there is a potential for the manifold system is going to save you a lot of space in your overall production if you are in a tight environment. Say you're building down in a little valley bed or something, and you don't have the ability to sprawl out, then the manifold's going to be your best bet for being able to utilize the space to the best you can. The con to that is you're not going to be 100% efficient when you first turn it on. It's going to take time for the system to build up and start producing items just as efficient as the load balancer is. So then you're going to have, if this is feeding into another system for manufacturing, you're going to have delays all the way down the line as you're waiting for components to get caught up and get things producing. Like, we're still, every once in a while on these last few here, we're seeing them still go yellow because we're not at that point where we've saturated. This one here is not at 100% full yet, so we're not getting that balance yet. We're getting there. This one's almost there, and then it'll be a matter of waiting for these last two to get completely caught up before this one starts coasting along. This is going to take this one here always takes the longest for it to be able to balance out. But there is a live view of your differences between the manifold setup and the load balancing setup. And I've always wanted to see these two systems running together side by side to really get a good picture of what is the difference between those two setups. And I've really hoped that you guys have picked up something from this and you've kind of learned a little bit more about item distribution for when you're planning your factories in the future, and how you want to be able to distribute your items to your various pieces of equipment. And if we look back here now, we're cruising right along. This has been doing significantly better than this side. But again, eventually we will get to a point where they will balance out, and the efficiency on the manifold will equal the efficiency on the load balancer. It just doesn't happen right away. You have to kind of wait for that process. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. I apologize if any of you saw the previous one that I posted for less than, I want to say it was up for less than 3 hours before somebody on Reddit said, hey, I've never heard of it referred to as a bulkhead. It's always been a manifold. And I'm like, oh man, I know it's a manifold. Why did I say bulkhead? Well, we've corrected it with this version of the video. So please reach down, hit that like button on the video, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Leave a comment down below. Tell me what you thought of the episode. Follow me on social media. You can reach me on Instagram and Twitter at TerrisDWDC. With that said, you guys have a good one, and we will see you in the next episode. Later.